It seemed like things were aligning for Penn State to pick up a commitment from Bo Bassett, but now things are trending in the opposite direction.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling, and as always, thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Seyko, and I am your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State Wrestling and Penn State Football. Well, this is a recruiting update for the Nittany Lions. In the final segment, I'm going to talk about why I feel confident in making a projection for one of the most elite prospects in the 2027 class to end up with Penn State. But we're going to focus on Bo Bassett and the latest update here with his recruitment. He's visiting a rival school this weekend. We're going to talk about the major players still in this recruitment and where Penn State stands. And if they don't land Bo Bassett, what are the implications of that? Friendly reminder, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Be a part of the conversation as Bo Bassett and family members, Keegan Bassett, his brother, his cousin, Melvin Miller, are all visiting Nebraska this weekend. So this is a major shift in a recruitment that seemed like when he decommitted from Iowa, that things at least were trending in the right direction for the Nittany Lions. I heard a lot of different things. I heard a lot of positive intel from different sources that this is trending in the right direction, but nothing ever materialized. So why is that? That's important to address here because I have three theories as to why Bo has not and did not commit to Penn State when it seemed like the best option and still is. Okay, yes, there's Nebraska. Oklahoma State's in his top three. Do we potentially see Virginia Tech or Rutgers try to make a secondary effort here to get back into the equation? So those are some of the schools, even though they're not officially in his top three, I think are some major players here in Bo Bassett's recruitment as it continues. Well, the first theory, it's not going to be the most entertaining. The second one is, so stick with me here. But the first one, he's been busy. I mean, Bo Bassett just won gold at the Junior Pan Ams, where Rocco Welsh and Mitchell Messenbrink did the same thing. His younger brother, Keegan Bassett, had just won cadet gold as well. So between his own personal competitions as well as family members being in competition and winning, if you were to announce your commitment at that point in time, you kind of, it would have been selfish in a way, I suppose, to where you would have taken the spotlight away from, Keegan definitely deserved it with what could be in theory an upset victory when he took cadet gold here recently. So I think Bo, as an older brother, wasn't trying to take the spotlight away from that. And then again, going through business as usual. Again, he just finished the competition himself by winning gold at the Junior Pan Ams. Okay, so a commitment didn't follow from there. And now he's back on the recruiting trail taking a visit to Nebraska. Here's the second theory, though, and this one, it is possible that it is more likely than just that. Now that we've seen, okay, well, a commitment never followed these competitions, so it leads me to believe option two, that Penn State might not be able to accommodate Bo Bassett, Melvin Miller, and Keegan Bassett. Here's why that's important. This is a package recruitment in my mind. Whatever school is going to land Bo Bassett is going to put itself in the driver's seat to land Melvin Miller, who is the top prospect overall pound for pound in the class of 2027, and Keegan Bassett, who just made his mark, just added a little more credence to what he is doing in the class of 2028. Regardless, even if he didn't win gold at the cadet tournament, he was going to be one of the elite lightweights in the class of 2028 and definitely sought after. You are getting, if you land this commitment from Bo Bassett, you should be expected to get two more commitments after that. So three elite prospects with one domino in the older brother of Bo Bassett there. And when I say accommodate, most people are going to gravitate immediately to NIL. financial payments. Well, Penn State should be able to afford any sort of NIL or figure out endorsements. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm referring to here. It is crowded, to say the least, at Penn State. Okay, and that also brings up another conversation. Well, Bo Bassett and Melvin Miller and Keegan Bassett, it's not that they're afraid of the competition, but their outlook isn't as clear as it would have been at an Iowa when Bo was originally committed there, but at Nebraska, at the likes of a Virginia Tech or a Rutgers, again, if they make a push, if they're able to get back into this recruitment. Oklahoma State, I think Oklahoma State, things aren't as clear. So Penn State and Oklahoma State have that in common, where it is difficult to immediately accommodate 3 elite prospects that are going to look to be 4-year starters. That's safe to say. That Bo Bassett doesn't intend to come in and take a red shirt. Neither would Melvin Miller. What is his outlook? His gets a little complicated because he would be in the same room as PJ Duke. And then, is he going to be able to hold 157 forever? Probably not. So you have Jaden James as well in this class of 2026. You're also going to be battling with potentially, if you bulk up some weight, okay, well, PJ Duke, Jaden James, those aren't the only 2 wrestlers there. How about Asher Cunningham, William Hankel? Penn State is loaded at those middle upper weights. 157, 165, 174, all extremely crowded over the same time period that Melvin Miller would be there. So I'm not here to say that these guys are afraid of the competition. They're running from it, and they would never be able to get into the starting lineup at Penn State. But I'm saying it is a little more complicated when there are 3 or 4 wrestlers vying for potentially 1 starting spot. And if this is a package recruitment, then you're going to have to, from the Bassett side of things, you got to figure out which university, which school is going to be the best option for not just 1 wrestler, but all 3. And at Penn State and Oklahoma State particularly, that is more difficult to do than some of these other schools that are involved or could be involved. Let's get to one that's pretty straightforward, pretty basic here. This is my third theory, that Nebraska is just making this difficult. Backed by Jordan Burroughs, right? Jordan Burroughs wants to see Nebraska overtake Penn State. So he is going to push very much to get Bo Bassett, Melvin Miller, and Keegan Bassett on board at Nebraska. Nebraska is in prime position where they are the consensus number 2 school right now. It's not Iowa, it's not Oklahoma State, it's Penn State, gap, but then it's Nebraska, and then another gap. So Nebraska is in a position to where they need this. A commitment of 2 Bassett brothers and Melvin Miller would be phenomenal for them. That would help them out over the next 4 to 5 years. And it's not only just getting these elite prospects, but there's one other part of this recruitment that is significant, whether it's Penn State, whether it's Oklahoma State, Nebraska. And at the time when Iowa had this commitment, we're going to talk about that next here. Why Bo Bassett, Melvin Miller, and Keegan Bassett, it is still a must-get for any school that is involved in this recruitment, including Penn State. And I'm going to explain what the Nittany Lions would be missing out on if they don't get this commitment. That is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered. Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Penn State, Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson delivered in a big way in the team's most recent football game against Nevada. When the pressure was on, both Hudson and Pena came through. I can't even choose one player. No hesitation, no delay, leading the team in receiving. And if you've been watching to this point, following along through practices, you know that this performance was not a fluke. And just like Trevor Pena and Kyron Hudson delivered for Penn State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive, fuel your game day, only with DoorDash. Terms apply, promo period through November 18th. And this episode is also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. You can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Still to come on this show, I am confident to make a prediction for a class of 2027 recruit and why Penn State should be considered the leader. Again, this is just a prediction, but I have confidence that the Nittany Lions will end up with one of the most sought-after recruits in 2027. Not Melvin Miller. That's not who I'm referring to. But Penn State, again, is still in the running here. But as we focus back in on Bassett's recruitment here, he is a must-get for more reasons than just you're landing a top 5 prospect in the class of 2026. You're landing the number 1 overall prospect. And I know some people still consider Bo Bassett the number 1 pound-for-pound prospect in 2026. Personally, I do not. I would say it's Jax Forrest, Jaden James. You could make a case for Drayshawn Ross, but conservatively speaking, Bo Bassett is still in the top 4, top 5, really conservatively. So that's why I say it just kind of as an even measure, so to speak. But so top 5 prospect conservatively. According to some people, number 1 in 26, number 1 in 27. And when 2028 rankings are finalized or they begin to materialize, one of the top lightweights in the country, he'll be one of the top overall wrestlers pound for pound as well. Keegan Bassett too. So it is that package deal. One wrestler, I don't think they're all going to go to different destinations. Again, if Nebraska is able to win this recruitment, then they are going to be in the driver's seat to land all 3 and should be expected to land all 3. Same thing with Penn State. But what else is really at stake here? It's more than just landing 3 elite caliber prospects when it comes to the sport of wrestling. I want to bring up the Pennsylvania pipeline that I talked about before when Iowa had this commitment. Because Bo Bassett, whether you respect him or you don't, or you like him as a competitor or you don't, there are people within the sport that really do respect Bo Bassett, Melvin Miller, and Keegan Bassett. Bo's going to be able to bring other talented wrestling prospects with him to whatever destination he goes to. You would like that to stay within Pennsylvania. That's the thing. Penn State isn't going out of state for this recruitment. You already lost out on Jax Forrest as one of the top prospects in Pennsylvania. Okay, you make up for it with, again, in 2026, you get Jaden James to flip away from Virginia Tech. You already have another fellow teammate in Sam Herring that is committed to the 2026 class. So the group continues to get better and can really get better with Bo Bassett in the fold if you're able to get him. So it's a double whammy. Not only does it maintain just a consistency in recruiting, in-state recruiting, and I'm not here to argue that, Cael Sanderson needs all the help that he can get. No, that's not what I'm saying. But it's mostly about you are preventing a pipeline from going somewhere else. At one point, looked like it was going to Iowa. Things changed. But now, that could potentially be going to Nebraska. Nebraska is a rising team, or at least has momentum. They're not rising on, they're there. They're the number 2 team right now in the country. They were number 2 a year ago. Okay, this is a Nebraska team that has all the momentum it could need to strengthen its chances. I still believe that long-term, over the 5-10 year plan, it's Oklahoma State that is the biggest threat, so to speak, to Penn State in its, reign over the sport of wrestling. But then Nebraska makes this a lot more interesting. So Oklahoma State, you definitely, now that only, again, it only adds more power to David Taylor and Oklahoma State if they are able to win this recruitment. But Nebraska, that just adds another piece to the puzzle in all of this. And if you're Iowa, if you're Oklahoma State, you don't want that for sure. If you're Penn State, obviously it's not ideal. I do think Cael Sanderson and the Nittany Lions will be okay at the end of the day, but still, it is not the ideal situation. And again, opens up a direct pipeline into the state of Pennsylvania that at least is going to create some more headaches in recruiting for Penn State down the road. Now, Nebraska, it's a must get for them because like I said, they have momentum. They have a window of opportunity here, and that's why you're seeing this visit happen. That's why you're seeing this. So going back to my original point in segment 1 of my theories, that Nebraska just might be making the push because they know if they get this across the finish line, it not only is a short-term victory, but a long-term victory as well to keep them extremely relevant when Oklahoma State is making the push that it is making long-term. You are right there with them in getting to Penn State or getting closer to Penn State, so to speak. That's why if you're Penn State, these recruiting battles do matter, and it's over the course of a 3-year period, but possibly even longer as well, again, if Bassett happens to commit to Nebraska. Now, Virginia Tech, Rutgers, originally, they were in that original recruitment. Bassett had released a new top 3 after his decommitment from Iowa. I do think it's primarily focused. I think it's really focused down to Penn State and Nebraska, with Nebraska just gaining some momentum here. But my confidence is a little bit lower in Penn State to land this commitment. That's all I'm going to say from there. Because, again, things were trending in that direction to where, okay, the Nittany Lions should be able to just pick up with this decommitment and get everything the way that it should be with Bassett ending up at Penn State. I think it's a really good fit with Bo, Melvin, and Keegan. Now, that's more difficult to project out for 2028 and beyond, but it made sense for both sides, both for Penn State and for Bo, Keegan, and Melvin. But now, if Nebraska is able to pull this off, then, okay, you're going to see that the Cornhuskers are serious about this. They want to remain relevant past this 3-year bubble, so to speak. So I don't blame them. I don't blame Jordan Burroughs for really wanting to, because Bo Bassett can certainly help at least continue a program or turn around a program in that case. Look, I think Penn State will be just fine in the scheme of things. You don't need this commitment. Again, it's not ideal if he ends up at Nebraska or Oklahoma State, but it certainly doesn't help you either if that happens. So if the Nittany Lions are able to circle back around, get a commitment, get potentially all 3 commitments here, then that's still a win because it just continues the trend of Penn State's dominance over collegiate wrestling. And again, it makes sense. They're from the state of Pennsylvania. Penn State isn't going way out of its way for this recruitment. This isn't a national recruitment, even though it is becoming that. This should have stayed a local recruitment, but it is no longer that. Now let's focus to 2027. Again, it's not so much bad news. Just with everything that I've heard, I've prepared to put in a projection, my own personal projection for a class of 2027 prospect that I think will end up with the Nittany Lions. I'm going to tell you who it is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. This episode is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Nittany Lion fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Well, stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That is promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. And this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. It is back. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. That's right, $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is great because it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. Not only your Sundays, how about your Saturdays too? That's right, you can bet on college football as well. Lines for Penn State versus FIU are available. Penn State is a hefty 41.5 point favorite. The total is set at 52.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com. And remember, if you are a new customer and you bet just $5, if that bet wins, your first bet of $5 wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. One of the top prospects in the class of 2027. I feel confident, even though this is still very early in the cycle, to say that this wrestler should end up with Penn State. He's actually been a guest on this show, ironically enough, and that is Landon Sidun, class of 2027. Projected at 126, has wrestled most recently at 113 at the high school level. He's already a one-time Pennsylvania State champion. If it wasn't for the injury that ended his sophomore season, he would have been a two-time Pennsylvania State champion. I think it's safe to say that right now I have enough confidence to expect Sidon. Now, again, this isn't a guarantee. I want to preface that first and foremost, but I do think that Sidon is going to end up being a Penn State Nittany Lion when all's said and done. And this could still take its time. I think this recruitment is going to play out because he released a top 12. Sidon's list was very extensive. I mean, as he should be. He's going to command a lot of attention. Iowa, Cornell, just to name a couple of schools on that list. West Virginia, Pitt, Minnesota, Nebraska, right? NC State. So that's primarily the schools that are in this recruitment recently. Cael Sanderson and Cody Sanderson paid him an at-home visit. So you can tell, so Penn State is making him a priority in this class of 2027. Penn State is, they're not finished with the class of 2026. Obviously, we just spent how many minutes talking about Bo Bassett and why that recruitment's important. So Penn State is still going to lean into 2026. But 2027 becomes the main focus here. It's not just Sidon. It's about pivoting to the class of 2027 that includes a lot of talented wrestlers. And I've gone on the record to say that the 2026 class wasn't a punt year or anything, so to speak, but with what they loaded up with in 2024 and 2025, it was okay. It was acceptable for Penn State to take not as strong of a recruiting class in 2026 because 24 and 25 were so elite and set the bar so high when it just came to collegiate recruiting. But now that that cycle is starting to come and go. There's that 1 year gap. And now it's back to 20. The focus is going to be in these duo years. So where it was 24 and 25, you take a little bit of a step back in 2026, not necessarily intentionally, but with the focus that 27 and 28 is going to be that next grouping. That's going to be the next pair that you prioritize in these recruiting cycles. So that's what Penn State's going to do. Since 2026 wasn't as heavy, you now are going to double down in 2027 and double down eventually in 2028. That starts with Landon Sidun, again, who is from the state of Pennsylvania. He goes to Norwin High School. He's going to be a multi-Pennsylvania state champion. We've interviewed him. Go check out that interview. The link will be down in the description if you did happen to miss it. But Sidon is already impressive with the way that he carries himself, the way that he trains. I enjoy following his recruitment process on social media. He's 72-2 at high school already. He's according to Matt Scout's rankings, he is number 14 overall pound for pound and number 2 at 126 pounds. if I had to project Sidon at the moment, he's going to be a lightweight to start his career. Ideally, Penn State would want him at 125 at the beginning of his tenure, but I could easily see him bulking up to what he'll remain a lightweight, but I could see him easily going to 133 eventually, and then ultimately finishing at 141 when all said and done, if and when he lands with the Nittany Lions. So that's what Penn State is up to. Again, 2026, since it wasn't as strong of an effort compared to 25 and 24 going backwards, but now going forward, that is going to be the plan here to strengthen 2027 and 2028 to look very similar to what they did in 24 and 25. And it truly, I think Sidon himself can be one of the faces in this class of 2027 if he were to happen to commit to Penn State. I am confident to say that. I am expecting that. Again, no guarantees here. So many things can change. Iowa's in this recruitment. Nebraska's in this recruitment. Don't discount Cornell or Minnesota. Oklahoma's in this recruitment too. I don't think I mentioned them in that long list. And this will take time. It's not going to be an immediate turnaround. He's going to trim that list. It'll probably get down to a half a dozen schools. Maybe it gets to a top 3. But Sidon has told us himself that he doesn't intend to speed up the process, that he is going to do his due diligence and come to the conclusion when he's ready. But when he is ready, he is going to be locked in. So looking forward to that. Just kind of keep an eye on him. Follow Landon's process. Keep up with him because he's just an intriguing prospect overall. Hopefully he ends up with Penn State. But he's just somebody to root for, regardless if he ends up with the Nittany Lions or not. Outstanding young man, and very eager to see what he does in this junior season of high school coming up here soon. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate each and every one of you for joining me on this show. Again, friendly reminder, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Be a part of the conversation. If you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We do this every single day. We're talking everything. Penn State wrestling, Penn State football, recruiting for both football and wrestling, basketball, hockey, you name it. It is all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions.